So Chetam with Bet, and the Mishnah says, Ein nosim noshim b'moed.
Right.
That you cannot marry on Chol HaMoed, you cannot get married to a woman on Chol HaMoed. Lo betulot v'lo almanot, neither a betula, a woman who's never been married before, an almana, or a widow, or and v'lo miyabmim, and you can't even do yibum, which is the wife of his brother who died without children, even though you could argue that the latter two are less simcha than a first-time marriage, right? Which is extraordinary simcha. So why? But all of these memnesha simcha hilo, because this is a simcha to him, and we'll see one reason is because ein marvin simcha be simcha. We'll see there are other reasons as well in the Gemara. Aval machzir hugas ushasa, but he can take back his divorcee, which is not such a simcha, because obviously if he divorced her, it probably was certain things that were hindering the simcha initially, right? And I think I said last time, I thought initially the reason was because you're afraid that someone else would jump in ahead of you.
Exactly.
But that could be a fear with anyone else, I suppose. But Rashi says Deina simcha kol kach. Okay, and so Yibum is a simcha, but Machzik Gushasa was not. And the next thing is V'osa Isha Tachshitel B'moed. A woman can look after certain cosmetics and do cosmetics on Yontif, on Chol HaMoed, excuse me. This is about eyeshadow, and this is about depilatories, and to put some rouge on her face. And all of these are, once again, probably to enhance the celebratory nature of Yontif. Okay?
Why not?
Okay, even though you could say maybe it's work and it's so forth, but nonetheless it's
women don't consider it.
Yeah, it's Chol HaMoed. It's Chol HaMoed. All this is Chol HaMoed. And however, Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo tasud mibnei shenivel hula. She cannot put on this lime because it is a nivel, and apparently the way this was put on, it was some type of lime caustic powder of some sort, or some type of compound, maybe it was like a paste. They put it on and it stayed, and then it was removed. Those of you who are old enough to remember shaving cream, okay, it's the same type of concept, okay, right?
Yeah.
Right? We put the cream on, and that's basically what it was. And then you let it sit there. If you let it sit there for too long, it became an irritant. If you didn't let it sit too long enough,
the hair wasn't
scraped it off with like
wouldn't stay like a tongue depressor.
correct, like something. So it was the same thing. So while it was sitting on you, right, you surely felt an evil. So apparently this was the same type of concept, only they may have let it sit for a long period. Maybe it was less of an acidic mix, or less of I'm not sure if that was acid or a base, what it was. Whatever it was, less of a caustic, so it had to sit for a longer period of time. So therefore, if it's Chol HaMoed, you don't want to really feel in a negative kind of uchi type of format. So says Rabbi Yehuda, you should not do this Mnei Level law. Obviously, the opposing opinion, the Chachamim would say this was okay, because only Rabbi Yehuda says it's wrong, because it's going to make it look nice. The Gemara is actually going to talk about that apparently Rabbi Yehuda was really talking about a very extreme kind of case where the Sid stayed on all the way through the entire day, or maybe even the entire Yontif, right? So whatever it was, this was an extreme treatment. And so that's what's usher. If you were putting it on and taking it off on Chol HaMoed and through the Yontif, so then you would still be able to celebrate the Yontif in this fashion, so that even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that it mutar lasud or lasid.
So what is Rabbi Yehuda talking about here?
So about putting on this paste, and the paste stays, so that the whole Yontif or the whole Chol HaMoed, she's wearing this pasted face.
What is the nivel?
It is a disgusting thing for her.
I was thinking it's something the man does.
No, it's a woman. Okay, nouvelle. So in other words, the actual act, the procedure, or this caking formula is nivel hula, and that's really true. Okay, so but apparently, what I said, the Gemara is going to tell us this was a very extreme case where it had to stay on the whole time. I don't know, whatever they are, you see people go when they put on these, I don't know, masks and all that. All right.
Yeah.
So that's the second part. The first part's one part about Nashim, about Merav and Simcha, another reason. The second part's a secondary piece. The third part was also a separate piece. And this is about doing malacha that we call meleches uman. So this is about sewing. So when you and I sew, I don't know about you, when I sew, it is definitely not meleches uman. Okay? Okay, I'll probably stop with at that point. So, and as a result, a meleches hedjot, a standard meleches hedjot that's unskilled labor is permissible on Chol Hamoed. So therefore, a hedjot tofer kedarko.
Sure.
The regular person who's not a skilled, who's not a tailor, can do it. However, uman machliv. An uman is a tailor or an artisan. Machliv is making jagged edges. He goes out of his way not to have even stitches, even stitches, but rather it's going back and forth. It's a jagged kind of thing. We probably call them basting stitches. He leaves it at that, and because otherwise the uman, if when he's tofer, he is going to be doing meleches uman, and therefore that's. I think the Gemara says the difference between an uman and a hedjot is if you make the hem straight. In other words, when you sew, it's not the way the stitches are, but if you were to sew off the bottom of your pants, would it be a straight line or not? That's the cutoff between uman and hedjot. Okay, probably more people sewed in those days than sew today, surely by hand. So, and the last thing is misargines amitos. The beds that they had seemed to have been hung, and they were hung by a series of ropes, and the ropes crossed, so that the mattress, it's not like our mattresses that sit on a box spring.
Like a hammock.
It's almost like a hammock, or probably wasn't a hammock that hung down like this, but really was maybe the bedpost kept whatever the mattress was tight. Correct.
That's how it is.
But the bottom line was the way it was tight. It wasn't a hammock, because a hammock is a single connection.
Yeah.
This was a connection all the way through, but it had to be a tight weave. So this is when it says mesargenes amitos. That means that you can do one.
You make them tighter.
But which is which? Mesargen is both, and mesargen is one.
It must be like a kippah sruga. No, it must be from the same.
Right, mesargen and mesargen. Correct. Well, it comes from correct kippah sruga, but it means mesargen.
Interlaced.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Knitted together, whatever.
So this was where you could actually sew or weave on Chol Hamoed the ropes that were underneath the bed that would hold up the bed and tie it to the post. Okay, and it was once again a weave back and forth. And Rabbi Yossi Omer af mam tuchim, that this is you can if they just loosen up, you can tighten up the ropes, even though you could still sleep on the bed if it loosened up. The first case you can't sleep on the bed because the ropes have not been strung.
Right.
So that's permissible. But what if it loosens up? So you could argue that is not as much a problem or not as much a davar avad. It's not a loss because you can still use the bed. It's just like it's a little
less
loose.
comfortable.
Well, it's a little loose, and nothing's going to happen to it if you use it for a couple of days. Perhaps if you use it for long term, then the bed may get ruined, or you surely will get less and less comfortable the more it gets loose and loose. But nonetheless, Rabbi Yossi says even mematchim, you can still you can just tighten them up. Even if just loosen, you can do that as well. Okay. So all of these are really three separate independent parts of the mission. Now the Gemara gets into talking about what is really the issur of marrying a woman on Chol Hamoed. And as we know, there are no weddings on Chol Hamoed. The Gemara says v'chi simcha hilo mai haveh. Okay, so it's a simcha. Well, why should simcha be also on Yontif? One would seem to say it would really be all the more the merrier. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mashmo v'chein Amar Rabbi Elazar Amar Rabbi Yoshaya v'Amile Amar Rabbi Elazar Amar Rabbi Chanina. Okay, whoever it is among these guys, Lefi she'ein ma'arvin ben simcha v'simcha. Okay, you can't add or confuse one simcha together with another simcha. So
And I see this would apply on Yom Tov Sheni as well. Yom Tov Sheni Shekalia.
sure, they don't get married on Yom Tov Sheni.
Yeah, but you're right.
So you probably can't get married on Yom Tov for a lot of reasons. One of which is the kinyan. We don't do kinyanim. I know it's a different type of kinyan.
And writing.
It's right. It requires writing, but even if you don't write, you only have to write the ksuba.
Right.
You can write the ksuba before.
Right, yeah.
Okay, but you don't acquire things on Yom Tov. You got to be very careful how you say that marriage is an acquisition.
Yes.
But I'll say Chazal. Chazal structured the format of marriage, right, through a kinyan.
Absolutely.
And in fact, the kinyan is based on, according to the Gemara, kicha mistei from when Avram acquires the field. That's even more difficult to explain to a modern audience. However, that selling property or real estate is a permanent kind of sale.
Right.
So Chazal wanted to give you the message that marriage is permanent. Marriage is a bond that you try to keep together. So therefore, the first reason, says the Gemara, why can you not get married on Chol HaMoed? Because Eimar and Simcha v'Simcha. We have one Simcha here, which is Yontif, which goes into Chol HaMoed. Right? Don't mix it up with the other one. Okay, now a couple more reasons, a few more reasons. Rabbi bar Rav Huna Amar mebnei shemaniach simchas haregel v'yosek b'simchas ishto. Okay. The second reason is not marvin simcha v'simcha. It's replacing one simcha for another. The first one says you're going to increase that, and as a result, when you increase it, automatically you've only a finite amount of simcha in you, only a certain amount of libido, right? So if you put it one way, it's going to be less than another. Here, we're actually saying that's exactly the problem. You're going to be masamech ishto and replace the simcha saregel.
It's a zero-sum game.
Correct. And therefore, it's not the two get confused. One gets lost, and that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Okay, and then the Gemara says, there's someone else that says this. This last statement that we just quoted, the name of Rabbi Bar Huna, the Rav who the Bar Huna, the Rav who the Amar, the Rav who the Rav who. It's from Rav. The Amar of Daniel Bar Katina Amar Rav, because we have the following statement in the name of Rav. Minayin she'inosim nashim b'moed. How do you know you can't get married in Chol HaMoed? Here we have a mokar. Shenemar v'samachta b'chagecha. Right? And the drush is, according to Rav, b'chagecha v'lo b'yishtecha. So and if you were to celebrate with your wife, you would be not able to celebrate chagecha. It's one or the other, which is closer to the second opinion of Ishtecha v'lo chagecha, or Ishtecha maniach simchas regel v'dosik v'simchas ishto, than it is to marvin simcha v'simcha.
Do we have the same restrictions on Purim and Hanukkah? I never heard about that. Purim? Because it's such a...
We probably don't get married on Purim either. I don't know.
I've never heard of it, but...
Never.
Do we...
Is it prohibited? May also be the same kind of reason. Marvin simcha v'simcha. Maniach simchas haregel. There's surely simchas Purim. Probably similar reasons. So the second reason is, so we have the two reasons. Now we have a third reason. Ola Amar Mipnei Torah. Okay. Ula comes back to the fallback. What are most of the things that are prohibited on Chol HaMoed? Tircha Yisera. What's a tircha? You got to make a wedding feast. Okay, you got to get all the dresses and the suits and the wedding party. A lot that goes into making a wedding, even a simple wedding. So as a result, it's going to be. It's not a tircha for Yantiv. So tircha on Chol HaMoed is aser. Boom. Okay. The fourth answer is. Rav Yitzchak bar Nafcha Amar is a very creative answer. Mipnei bitul pirya v'rivya. Okay, in other words, if you'll be a net loss for procreation. How so? How so? Okay, so there are people who schedule weddings when it's really convenient. I know someone who actually has a trying to think, they have a wedding and a bar mitzvah coming up, and it's actually in about the next 2 or 3 months, which they've scheduled them within a week apart. Because they figured, he said, it's a week apart, but family who come from far away will stay for one, stay for the other. Right? So what's the issue? If you find a time that's infinitely more convenient to get married, you'll defer getting married until that point. So, Chalamoid people aren't working, they don't have to take off from work, it's a wonderful time. So therefore, if we say, and we want to make a Suda anyway for Chalamoid, I know people aren't that careful, really there's a mitzvah to have a Suda on Chalamoid apparently. So you make the Suda for Nesuin and the Suda for Chalamoid, and you save a meal. Boom, it's a win-win. What's the problem? Instead of getting married 2 months before Pesach, you'll wait till Pesach. Instead of getting married a month before Sukkot, you get married on Sukkot. So you have deferred Pru-Ravu. Okay. Now you say this sounds like so minuscule, right? Correct. And the answer is yes, but Pru-Ravu is such a primary value that Chazal were always that careful not to minimize it. It's surely the most creative of the 4 answers. Okay. So today we have 4 answers. One is Ein Marva Simcha B'Simcha. One is you can't do one, which will knock off the other. Third is Tircha, and the fourth is Memayit the Pru-Ravu. Okay. Meisvei. So the Gemara asks a question from the following brayso. Kol Eila she'amru asurim lisa b'moed mutarim lisa. Okay. Mutarim lisa erev haregel. Anyone, all of those people that cannot get married on Chalamoid, because there clearly were at least one person who could get married on Chalamoid, who is Machzir Gushaso, which is not a Simcha. Okay. So Machzir Gushaso is not a Simcha. Can't get married on Chalamoid. I don't know who else could get married on Chalamoid. From this list, looks like everyone else is out.
Well, he says all of those who are forbidden, right? So, which is the most people, in other words.
Right, but it's correct. So, mutarim lisa erev haregel. However, they can get married lechatchila on erev yantiv, even though, right, the week of Sheva Brachas is going to be yantiv.
Absolutely.
Okay, but it means you can get married on erev yantiv.
This is the day before. We're talking erev yantiv.
So you have to remember, getting married is not a 1-day affair; it's a 7-day affair.
Yeah. Plus, as far as the happiness and the this and the that, and making your wife happy and holding.
So the Gemara says, okay, we have 4 reasons here. Let's try to see how we can apply them. Right? So the Gemara says Kash L'Kulu. Exactly. It's all 4 of a question. Because if it's Ein Marva Simcha B'Simcha, you're going to have the whole week of Sheva Brachas. It's going to be on Yantiv. If the reason is because you're going to be with Simachas Ishto and you're going to forget about Chagecha, there you go. That's the whole week of Sheva Brachas. If it's because of Tircha, the surely Tircha that you got to do to make up the week of Sheva Brachas that follow right away, it's Mamash Erev Yantiv. Right. You get married. And the 4th one is Bittul Puri of Rivya. If you're saying you're married Erev Yantiv, well, maybe people will wait till Erev Yantiv. Wait till Erev Yantiv. Instead of making a week special of Sheva Brachas, you got to make 7 meals for the Chassan and Kala, invite people and everybody else, Panim Chadashos. You got the meal already for Yantiv. Everybody's cooking. So, isn't that going to be the same thing? So the Gemara says we have 4 reasons. How are we going to reconcile the 4 reasons with this brisa here? Wow. So the Gemara says Lakulu Kash Lakulu. So the Gemara says Lo Kash Laman De'am Mishum Simcha. Mishum Simcha. So the first one who says because of Ein Marva Simcha B'Simcha, that's not a problem. Why? Because Ikar Simcha Chag Yomahu. The real Simcha of Simchas Ishto is the first day, or the Simcha of the celebration is the day of the wedding. That's really true. Okay.
The wedding's a bigger Simcha.
Wedding is a bigger Simcha, but in fact, sometimes you hear people saying, and of course they don't mean it, Chalila, right? But by the time they're getting to the end of the week of Sheva Brachas, I got to go out again tonight, another Sheva Brachas. Sometimes they don't know the people, it's just the Chas and Kala's friends. Whatever it is, it becomes a little bit of a routine. Or a routine at least. Forget the Tircha for a moment, but it's a routine, so it's less Simcha. So the real Simcha is Mamash the Chuppah. Mamash the Nesuin itself. That makes sense. So that we've dispatched with that. Laman di Amar. Wait, we lost one. So that, by the way, is going to exist. I think knock off the first 2. Yeah. Right, because the first one is in Marvin Simcha, and the other one is Simcha Sishto. Knock off the other one. So you won't knock off the Yantiv altogether. Laman di Amar Mishum Tircha. Ikar tircha chad yoma. So the truth is, the Nisuim themselves, the first day of Nisuim, that's where the tircha itself. The second day with the Sheva Bracha, it's not the same. I know people make a big Sheva Bracha, it's not the same as making a wedding. The wedding is really infinitely more complicated. You want to make sure it goes off complete. Flowers, tablecloths, menu, etc., etc., people, yeah, right, etc. So therefore, yeah, there is tircha, but not as much. Lamandam shembita period v'rivya. So the Gemara says, well, what about the one day that wait for every other? So the Gemara says, you know what, one day, if he says one day is special, people aren't going to wait for it. Because you know what, they figure there may be too many weddings taking place that day. Or is that's too small of a target that you got lined up into that day. If you say Chol HaMoed has got 4 days. Remember, in Eretz Yisrael, with those 1 day of Yontif, so you don't have 4 days of Chol HaMoed, you have 5 days of Chol HaMoed. Right? And on Sukkot you got 6 days of Chol HaMoed. That's a nice number of days. So you'll choose this day, I'll choose that day. So people are willing to kind of spread it over Chol HaMoed. That could be a concern if you allow them to get married on Chol HaMoed. But the 1 day of Erev Yontif, you tell people you can't get married on Chol HaMoed. But you can get married on Erev Yontif, and everybody's going to wait for that 1 day. That's too crowded. You're not going to do that because you won't get a hall, and people won't come. There'll be the other weddings. So the Gemara says, "L'chad yoma lo mashi'inish nafshei." Okay, so therefore, for 1 day, people are not going to wait out, and therefore that won't be a problem. So we've dispatched with all the 4 reasons in terms of not being a problem for the brisa that tells us you can get married on Erev Yontif. Okay. So now we come to this long piece of Gadata, and it's led into this by the Gemara's question. With the Ein Marvin Simcha B'Simcha Minalan. How do you know that you can't be Marvin Simcha B'Simcha? I told you Shalmi, which was about Lavan and Yaakov. This is a completely different reason. The Chsiv says, Vayas Shlomo Ba'is Ahiyas Achag V'chol Yisrael Imo Kahal Gadol Milavo Chamat Ad the Nachal Mitzrayim. This is when Shlomo is celebrating and dedicating the Beis HaMikdash, and all the people are coming from Lavo Chamat, which until with Lavo Chamat is probably, I don't know, who knows?
In the Lebanon somewhere.
Is Chamat? Is that what are they who's got a translation? Did Mr. Sansino tell us?
It probably says Chamat. At the place.
Where's Chamat?
Does it say where Chamat is?
Doesn't say? Okay. We don't say, we don't know. Okay. But it's obviously somewhere up north. And Nachal Mitzrayim is the whole plain of right around the Nile Valley, Nile Delta. Then they all come Lefnei Hashem L'keinu Shivas Yomim. I'm sorry, Lefnei Hashem L'keinu. How long do they come for? Shivas Yomim, B'Shivas Yomim. 7 days and 7 days. And the pasuk continues, Arba'asa Yom, 14 days. So they come to celebrate for 14 days, but it goes out to single out there are 7 and 7.
Right.
Which means he's not making a celebratory feast of 14 days. He's celebrating 7 days, and then he got 7 days of something else. One is one, and one.
Sukkos, I think.
Right. So the second 7 days are Sukkos. The first 7 days there is celebration. So Shivas Yomim v'Shivas Yomim. So the Gemara, and that's how the Gemara learns it out, because it goes back and the Gemara is going to go through this now and try to explain to you the drash. V'imi said the Marvin Simcha v'Simcha, and if you say that you can mix up 2 Simchas together, one is a Simcha of Yontif and the other is Simcha of Shlomo, Ibayle leminter arachag u'lemevet shiva. U'lemevet shiva lahacha lahacha. If you say all you needed was you could combine them together, so you should have made it on Sukkot, celebrated for 7 days. It would be Sukkot / Chanukah's HaBeis HaMikdash. So, but it seems he has to have 14 days, 7 to celebrate, and then 7 for Sukkos. He couldn't combine them together. So you see from this that Shlomo understood to celebrate the Beis HaMikdash. To celebrate the Beis HaMikdash, he had to have his own celebratory days that were not going to be combined with a normally scheduled Yontif, because they are Simcha v'Simcha. Okay. So the Gemara has a couple of questions. First question is, well, maybe he celebrated it early because that's when it came.
That's when the house was
That's
finished.
that's when the Beis HaMikdash was finished. So the Gemara says, "V'dilma mintre lo natrinan." In other words, you can't simply watch and keep the day and say, I'm going to watch it for 7 days until Sukkot comes. In other words, if it however, but if it happened to be that he would finish the Beis Hamikdash on Erev Sukkot, he could overlap his celebration with Sukkot. Maybe the reason that he made the 7 days before is he didn't want to watch, he didn't want to keep in abeyance for 7 days to start his celebration 7 days later. He's got the building finished. It's showtime. Right? He's completed it. But in a case if he hadn't completed it and fell out the way, maybe it'd be okay. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, that the issue was he happened to finish it early, so so who told him to finish it early? In other words, you could slow down and you say, well, you have all the artisans and they finished ahead of schedule. Right? In other words, really, he wanted to finish by Sukkot, but what happened? They got ahead of themselves and they finished 7 days ahead. So he could have slowed it down. How do you slow it down? You got your artisans are moving at breakneck speed, so leave a little stuff at the very end. In other words, leave a little piece of the Beis Hamikdash until the end. So you'd have 99.99% done, and you leave a tiny bit. So why didn't you do that? You tell me he finished early. That's why you had to make it before. But really, Marvin Simcha was Simcha. So don't finish early. Leave over a little bit. So Gemara says that you can't do that because Shiur Beis Hamikdash, Shiur Binyan Beis Hamikdash, Lo Mishayrina. You can't leave behind a little bit of the Beis Hamikdash has got to be finished. It's finished. You can't dilly dally. There's a mitzvah apparently to build the Beis Hamikdash, so therefore, if it happens to be the time that it's finished, finish it. So you can't leave behind. You cannot defer the completion of the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara then gives a funny kind of a line here. It's so hard to understand it. Because what does the Gemara say? You can't defer, you can't delay the Beis Hamikdash.
Right.
So the Gemara says, well, maybe you can't delay the Beis Hamikdash, but you could delay some of the auxiliary buildings of the Beis Hamikdash. Sometimes you see a building is finished, right, and it's cleared with the building codes, and as you come in, you see the artisans are still putting on, I don't know, some decorative type of thing on the outside, or they're finishing off the brickwork on the inside. Right, everything is done, so it's okay to go in there, but there's still some things that have to be finished off. So maybe you should have left over some of those kind of things which don't impinge upon the integrity of the building. So I can understand
But he did delay it. He did delay it.
No, he didn't delay it.
On the contrary, if he celebrates for 70 days, it means it was finished at the beginning of those 7 days.
Correct. So
he did delay 7 days.
No, he celebrates right away. Celebrating means he's dedicating the Beis Hamikdash.
Dedicating is not using.
It is using it. You're dedicating, you celebrate. So however it is, wherever there would be a 7-day celebration is based upon the Mishkan, which also has a 7-day celebration before Vayhi Bayom Hashmini, on the 8th day when Aaron takes over. For the first 7 days of the Mishkan, who served in the Mishkan? Moshe. In fact, the Gemara asked, what did he wear?
What?
He wasn't a Kohen.
Were there Karbanis those 7 days?
No, but whatever he did, someone's got to be there, walk around. I don't know. Whatever Moshe did, he was the Kohen. So the Gemara says actually he had a very simple garment. In fact, it was so simple it didn't even have a hem, didn't have an imra, because it wanted to show he really wasn't a Kohen. But they had a 7-day dedication of the Mishkan.
And here I think Shlomo tried to bring some of his own. Of course, presumably he didn't, but
whatever. But I'm saying, but here, in other words, we're saying when he finishes, he goes into the celebration. But so the Gemara says, so maybe it happened to be finished, but why can't he delay it? So the Gemara says, you can't delay building a Beis Hamikdash. So let's not. So build the Beis Hamikdash, but leave something that's really tertiary, that's really decorative. And the Gemara gives the example. There was at the top of the building of the Beis Hamikdash some kind of contraption that kept the ravens off. Okay, and and that sounds like kind of funny, but I guess that was a real issue.
Well, given how much meat you had lying around, you'd certainly want to keep.
Correct, and the ravens were the seagulls of the time.
Absolutely,
they were there, and they were big birds.
Yeah,
right? So they had some kind of, probably some kind of plates and the ravens would always be at the top, because that's ravens at the top of the tree, the top of the building. That's the vantage point. So if you can keep them off the top of the building, you kept them off the building. So they had some kind of, think of it as a row of some kind of metal sticking up that made it uncomfortable for the ravens to go there.
We use that in buildings nowadays for pitching.
Right.
To keep the pigeons up.
Correct.
They put metal spikes.
Correct. Same thing. So, why couldn't he just finish the Beis HaMikdash? Because you can't delay the Beis HaMikdash, but let him leave something that he still has to do. Which would mean what? Which would mean if he didn't do that, right? In other words,
then he could wait till Sukkot, you're saying. Presumably.
Right, so in other words, let him do that, and then he could do them both together.
Yeah.
So Gemara says, that too you can't do. So Gemara says, no. This row of plates that was the crow chaser was also part of the Beis HaMikdash. It is an extra, but it's not integral to the foundation.
But it says Torech binyan abayit. You need it.
Correct.
Right?
So therefore, we don't know. The Gemara is coming back and saying we don't really know. Maybe Shlomo couldn't slow down the speeding locomotive.
Right.
They finished 7 days before.
That's why he started.
He couldn't delay a week to put up the Kalya Orev. Couldn't delay a week to put on the finishing touches because you can't slow things down. And therefore, unfortunately, he made it a week before Sukkot. But really, if he's finished on time and they came in on exactly on Erev Yontif, he could have been Ma'arvin Simcha b'Simcha.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all a question. How do you know there's really a proof from here? Ein Ma'arvin Simcha b'Simcha. Maybe Shlomo made it 7 days earlier. That's when I got finished.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just reading it from the events. You don't know. It doesn't tell us why Shlomo did this. So Gemara says you're right. We don't really know, but Elamidiyai Kra. Because the Torah goes out of its way, or in this case the Tanakh goes out of its way to include additional verbiage. And I know this is Tanakh, it's not Torah, but it's a very significant piece of Tanakh. So if the record is recorded in such a way that it says 7 plus 7, 14, right? Or how does it go? Yes, 7 days and 7 days and 14 days means it's going out of its way. It could have either said, okay, so you say we couldn't say 14, could have said 7 and 7. Or could have just said 14. What's 7 and 7 are 14? Mm-hmm. So go.
Is it in both places? Is it both in Malachim and in Divrei Hayamim?
I don't know.
Malachim Aleph, Perichet.
Right, it's in Malachim Aleph for sure.
Malachim Aleph for sure. What is it?
Perichet and verse 65 and Divrei Hayamim.
Oh. You have no quotation with Divrei Hayamim, yeah?
Yeah, here.
Mm-hmm. That would be more interesting.
Yeah, it's in Malachim. Divrei Hayamim where?
Divrei Hayamim BAYT, Perik Zayin, Pasuk Tet.
Nope. There's only a Shivas Yomim, Shivas Yomim. Vayasu b'yom hashmini. Oh, that's the end. You said Tet?
Number 9, Pasuk 9.
Yeah, that's that.
And what was in Malachim Aleph? Was 9? Was 8?
8:65.
Got to be Malachim Aleph.
So in Malachim 8:65 talks about the beginning of the celebration.
Samach is 60,
right?
yeah.
And then in Divrei Yomim it says Vayasu b'yom hashmini atzeres. It goes back to the end. On the 8th day he made an atzeres. Ki Chanukas hamizbeach asu shivas yomim ve'achag shivas yomim. Here it spells it out. They celebrate for 7 days, and the sukkahs were 7 days.
But does it say 14 days?
No, it does not say 14 days.
That's
It does not say 14, but it makes it clear. Divrei Yomim that the 7
yeah, but it doesn't
days
tell you why. No, but that could have been 7 and 7. Just happened to work out.
Correct, but in Malachim it doesn't tell us why it says 7 and 7 and 14. In other words, you actually need both of them. From Divrei Yomim it tells us the 7 days were for the celebration of the Beis HaMikdash. Shivas Yomim, Chanukah Samizbeach Asu Shivas Yomim, Biachag Shivas Yomim. Tells us there are 2 celebrations. From Malachim, it just tells us 7 plus 7 and Arba Yom. So the fact that it has to repeat, the fact that it be the same in both places is no chiddush. The fact that a Malachim Aleph goes and adds 14 days tells me there's something special, that it was intended to be separate celebrations. They could not be combined. Because otherwise simply say 14 days.
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, so it's really from what's called, it's called Yitzur Akra, Midiayt Akra, Michtek Sivar Basa Yom. Since it's 14 days, Shivas Yom Lomli,
Right.
Shmami no, Hani Lechud, V'Hani Lechud. Okay, so that they're, each of them are separate 7 for the Beis Hamikdash and 7 days for the celebration of Chag of Sukkot. Okay. That's how we know Ein Marvin Simcha V'Simcha, according to the Bavli, and from there we apply it to our Mishnah about Nisuin and probably all kinds of super special Simchas. Okay, so now the Gemara has this whole long discussion about celebrating this because it means, and this is what we came in and you started talking about this, that in order to celebrate 7 days before Sukkot, you're going to end on the 14th, right? Because Sukkot starts the 15th.
Right.
So it's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right. Which means the celebration of the Beis Hamikdash is going to overpower or trump Yom Kippur. Wow. Can one imagine that?
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
It did.
it did. Okay.
Hey, don't build a Beis Hamikdash every day, my friend.
Right, and you can't get around the fact that that's when it takes place.
Right. That's for sure.
Right. So,
I mean, again, as I recall, there were 22,000 oxen or something. So you can't.
But in Malachim it doesn't mention
Yom Kippur.
It doesn't.
and doesn't mention Yom Kippur Divrei Yamim either.
That's fine, but that's because Yom Kippur comes out every year. It's not special. This is giving you the history of Beis Hamikdash. What's the more fascinating part is you assume that they came to celebrate, and to celebrate, they had to eat. Who celebrated?
One day they presumably didn't.
Well, they did. They did.
Yeah.
In the eyes of the Gemara, in the eyes of Chazal, yes, they did. The Tanakh, as Jack said, is completely silent. We don't know. You could conjecture that they came to Yom Kippur, they took a moratorium for 24 hours and came back and right after they sung Lashon Haba Yerushalayim, because they were Yerushalayim. Correct? So, but the Gemara says, not true. This is the Masorah that they had. Okay, I don't know. So, and the Gemara tries to learn now from a Kal V'chomer from Sukkim. So the Gemara says as follows. It's a fascinating piece of Gemara. It's lighter than the type of halachic pieces we're doing. Amar Parnach, Amar Rav Yochanan. Osa Shana Lo Asu Yisrael Es Yom Kippurim. This year that they came to celebrate the dedication of the Beis Hamikdash, they missed out. They did not do Yom Kippur. V'hayu dogim v'omrim, and they were worried, and they said, because they had to be there, probably because Shlomo Melech said you got to be there, and if you didn't show up, it probably would be okay. So Shemen et Chayvu Sonem Shel Yisrael Kloya. Maybe this is a euphemism. Sonem Shel Yisrael refers to Jewish people, right? Maybe the enemies of the Jews, i.e., the Jews, are deserving to be destroyed. Yotza Bas Kol V'Yamar Lehem. The voice came out and said, Kulchem Mezumanim L'Chayil Mabah. You're all invited and sure you're going to go to Olam Haba, even though you did not celebrate. Even though you're not
go by a bat call. I thought. No, I'm just teasing.
This is not a halacha. Just tell it that it was a reassurance. Okay, it was a reassurance.
And a bat kol, and it's not even mentioned in both places.
No. It's very matter of fact. Just the.
You would certainly think it would be mentioned in Tanakh, but you're right. In the Tanakh.
Okay.
Actually, if I remember correctly, there are two we choose parts of this for the two haftorahs on Sukkot. One on the first day and one on Shmini Atzeres, I think. Shmini Atzeres or I think Shmini Atzeres.
Certainly have this as haftarah.
Okay, one is the beginning and one is the very end. Which and I forget which is taken exactly from it. So they were very worried. The Bat Kol says not to worry about it. Everything is okay.
So things like these bat calls were presumably a tradition they had, that there was a bat call, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Some Masorah.
This whole thing is a tradition.
This bat call.
This whole thing is a tradition that they ate on Yom Kippur.
Okay. Well, but they're trying to draw it out from somewhere.
They're trying to point out the fact that the Torah, the Tanakh, does not mention anything about breaking for Yom Kippur. The fact that Yom Kippur is not mentioned.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means Yom Kippur didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's the inference. So it's Docha Isur Skila, which is a worse death. In other words, it's a very serious kind of death.
Mm-hmm.
So Mikdash, So the dedication of the Beis Hamikdash, which Kedusha, so Kedusha Zolom, it's a greater Kedusha,
Right.
and it's a carbon tzibur, and the carbonas that Shlomo Melech is bringing is on behalf of the entire tzibur. That's part of the scripted part. And Yom Kippur, the Anush Kores, and Yom Kippur, the punishment for Yom Kippur is less than the punishment for Shabbos. So Lokoshkein, surely it should be Docha. If the Nesiim could be Docha Shabbos in the dedication of the Mishkan, Shlomo could be Docha
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Certainly. It's a good Kal V'chomer. It sounds good to me.
Why?
No, actually not.
Do we say the Kedusha of the
What, the
Mishkan
Shabbos?
as opposed to the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash?
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Are they equal, or do we say the Mishkan is a higher one?
No, it says the
I think the
Mishkan is a lower
Mishkan is a
one.
lower one
It says
because
the
it was
Mishkan-
temporary.
Yeah.
No, it's
Temporary. It was specifically commanded by Hashem.
quick. Now the answer is that, but the kedusha of both are about the Shechina, and the kedusha of both about the Kodesh Kodashim, and they're comparable. I suppose they're comparable. But the
Even though there's
Mishkan,
no direct commandment for Beis Hamikdash.
yeah, B'makom Hashem Char Hashem.
Yeah.
That could be the city.
But it's not. It's not
specific.
Not specific.
Right, you could have kept the Mishkan in. Okay, so the answer is yes, but Shlomo gets a tzivoy
Yeah, of course.
to build the Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah.
David,
Hashem says to David, you won't build it,
You
your
won't
son's
build
gonna
it.
build
But then
it.
there's a tzivoy to Shlomo that says to build the Beis Hamikdash.
Did he get it directly?
I'm quite sure there's a Hashem says.
Hashem certainly said to David, you won't build it, your son's going to build it. That's clear.
Okay, we'll check it out. I don't remember.
He commanded him to build it. I don't think he did.
I don't remember. Okay,
So you're saying they're equal in status.
Except one is temporary.
equal in terms of levels of kedusha and a hierarchy of kedusha. However, one is forever, one is only temporary. So the Gemara is trying to understand.
Yes and no.
I mean, that's what I asked before. They thought
I
that
mean, the Beis Hamikdash wasn't a permanent.
yeah, but
It was supposed to be. It was intended to be, but it wasn't.
Well, so actually, we believe that the place of the base, we believe that kedusha rishona kitchel shaita v'lo lasid lavo, but the kedusha of the base mikdash was forever. As far as I know, the kedusha of the base mikdash, the Makkah base mikdash never left. So it is, and it's still there, right? We believe the kedusha. Whatever the corollaries are, you can go there, you can't go there, but the kedusha of the base of mikdash is still there. That's the whole idea.
But everyone holds there's still kedusha there. There may be disputes about exactly which parts
Correct.
are invested.
So you see, that's forever.
But everyone holds there's still
Correct. Right. Whereas the Mishkan, when the Mishkan was folded, no, there were certain times in the history of the Jewish people when they came to Eretz Yisrael, the Mishkan did not have that sense of kedusha. They could bring karbonos in every location.
yeah, but
You can't do that. You cannot say today we don't have a base of mikdash, therefore I'm going to set up my own bama and make my own carbon.
yeah, and I must admit, I know halachically the bamos were allowed, but I'm back with what you didn't say it, but it's inconceivable to me when they set up the Mishkan in Bethel, wherever, in Shiloh, that people wouldn't come. This was built, like I said, by Moshe Rabbeinu and all those. This was the actual, the Mishkan. This was the Ark, the Aron. And why would you go to Bamot instead of there? It's like, to me, I don't even. But anyways, that's just as a historian. Yeah, and Yerushalayim is closer. No, I'm just saying. It's inconvenient, but that's where you go.
So you often built.
That's after the split, right? I'm saying, but there were Kohanim. They were close, not very far descendants of Aaron at that point, right? I mean, to me, I don't know. Anyway, we know that's what happened, but it's like.
Okay, so it doesn't say that Hashem says to Shlomo to build the base of mikdash. The closest it says is.
Isn't there when Hashem says, "Who could build? How the whole heavens are my heaven, the earth is my footstool. Who could build me anything?" I mean, if anything, I think Hashem is like, even though He did tell David that his son would build it. But,
Right. I don't know, where is it?
in fact, Shlomo says, "I built myself a house. I didn't build you a
Right.
place."
So
And
the
Hashem
question
says,
is, how can a kal v'chomer override an actual verse in the Torah? That's the question. The verse in the Torah says, "Don't eat on Yom Kippur." They learned the kal v'chomer.
So the answer
No, how
is
could
that,
they bring
the real question. The real question is That's not the question of the Kal V'chomer. The Shlomo could bring a carbon. Okay, I got it. There's a Kal V'chomer. Who says everybody had to eat it? That's the real question from the Kal V'chomer.
Actually, the first one, now that I think
In other words, when the Siyam brought it, they brought it on Shabbos. Okay, they brought it on Shabbos. Okay, whatever it was. But did anyone else have to be Machal Shabbos to maybe they didn't have to eat, they had to slaughter the animals, and they ate from what was slaughtered, but whoever it was, the people around simply ate. On Yom Kippur, to partake of all these animals being slaughtered meant to break Yom Kippur. That's the real question in my mind. Not that Shlomo could brought or didn't bring the carbon. Okay, so and how you override Yom Kippur? There are a lot of things in the Beis Hamikdash which override rules of the Torah.
Yeah,
Like Shvut.
No, like Eish.
Yeah.
Like Eish, like Shechita.
No, but that's what I was going to ask. Even the first part, even though I said it's that. What about even the Siyam, the Doche Shabbos? Like, are we assuming that in the Mishkan they didn't bring Karbonis on Shabbos?
Sure they did, with the carbon himself.
Sure they did. That's what I'm saying. So,
But those Karbanos are designated to be brought on Shabbos.
right.
Whereas
They did
Right.
this in their
the
own.
Siyam was a voluntary offering.
Yes,
They weren't commanded to do it.
Okay, anyways, let's go back to this because we have to see how they prove from the Siyam. So that's the Kal V'chomer that they learned. So lo kol shekain, the kedusha of the carbon tzibur of Yom Kippur danish kares lo kol shekain. So they had a Kal V'chomer. So the Gemara says, so if they had a Kal V'chomer and they're all being tamei the chachamim, what was their problem? Right? So the Gemara says, "Lamai hayadogim." So what were they concerned about if they had really Kal V'chomer? So the Gemara says, "Hasam tzorach gavoa, hachad tzorach hedjot." Okay, so really that bringing the karbanos in the Beis Hamikdash was for Hashem, right? It was the karbanos were HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here, the Chanukas HaMishkan, the Chanukas Beis Hamikdash, they were bringing the animals and they were celebrating, giving to the people. I guess that's really the question. And Hacha Namid. So the Gemara says, Hacha Namid.
He has a comment.
Hachanami me'aved le'avdei me'chalo nichlo v'lo lishtu. So if this is tzorach hedjot, so let them do the celebration. But the Gemara says, let them do. He says, you're right. It's a good question. Let them do the celebration and not eat.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me so they have to be there for the celebration. It's a tzorach hedjot, so don't eat. So the Gemara says, "Ein simcha below achila v'shtiya." Okay, so that's the Gemara's conclusion there. Good. And ein simcha below achila v'shtiya. So Gemara says, well, how do we know the Mishkan itself was Doche Shabbos? Because the whole proof comes from the Siyam. Mishkan the Doche Shabbos minala, and how do you know the Mishkan is Doche Shabbos with the Siyam? It says Bayom Arishon, Bayom Hashvi. Each one they says the first day, the second day, the seventh day. So Gemara says Dom Hashvi leKarbanos. Maybe the seventh day means the seventh day of when we bring Karbanos. Sure. Maybe day 7 is really Sunday. Day 1 was Sunday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Day 7 would have been Shabbos. You can't do Shabbos, so do it the next day. Right. So the Gemara says, Amrav Nachman Yitzchak, no, Amakra Biyom Ashtei Asa Yom. Oh. So when it comes to 11 and 11, it doesn't say Bayom Hashvi, it says Biyom, it doesn't say Biyom Ashtei Asar, it says Biyom Ashtei Asa Yom. So the extra yom says as follows. You're not going to feel that's such a good drash, but ma yom kulo ratzuf, the same way a day follows a day. Day is a period of time. Today is tomorrow, and yesterday each follow each other. Yesterday goes to today goes to tomorrow. So af ashtei asar kulam ritzufim. So 11, when it says 11, means 11 days. Means 11 days means the days are being counted consecutively. So B'yom Ashtei Yom means the day of 11th day.
Yeah. Did the other days say have that extra yom?
No, until 10 it's B'yom Asiri. Until they get to 11, B'yom Ashtei Yom, B'yom Shnei Yom. Wait, the Gemara's not finished.
Say the Yom on the 12th.
The Gemara says that. Wait. So the Gemara says, well, how do you really know that? V'dilma hachanami. I'm sorry. V'dilma yomim haru'uyim ksiv.
Haru'uyim, he just ends right there.
V'dilma yomim haru'uyim. Maybe it means that the 11th day is the 11th day when they were bringing karbanos.
Right.
So the Gemara answers, once again, you're not going to think there's such an ironclad proof. Yeah, but there are two of these special counting. There's B'yom Ashtei Yom, then B'yom Shnei Yom. So ksiv krachvi. Now the next nasi, the last nasi says B'yom Shnei Yom. So ma yom kula ratzuf av shnei masa yom kula mitzvah. The same way a day follows the day before. So 12 days means the 12 days in a row. So the Gemara says, wait, but you asked that question before for day 11. Maybe it means the 12th day in the that they could bring, but day number 7 was not brought because it was Shabbos. Some kain trei kroi lamali. Okay, so why do you have to have 11 day and 12 day? The fact that I have both of them comes to tell me that the days were actually in order without any break. That's the proof. From that proof, then they learn the Kal V'chomer. So this is a kind of medrash that's kind of a couple steps removed, right? Because it assumes that the Nesiim brought the 12 days consecutively, continuously, without a break, based upon the drush of B'yom Hashtes Yom, B'yom Shneimos Yom, and it assumes that the people learned the Kal V'chomer. If the Nesiim could do it, then we could do it for Shlomo.
Sure.
And we can eat with Shlomo.
Yeah, but they still had, you can't get away from the fact that those extra 2 Yom, generally look at the Torah, why, you just said, the Yom Ashtei Asar would have been enough, right?
Right, correct. Okay, so let's kind of finish up this drash here, because it's very simple. So anyway, that's how the drash comes from. Now the Gemara says the conclusion of this whole medrash is, so what happened was, V'yotza baskol v'yomar lehem kulchem v'zumanim l'chayim mavah. So the voice came out and said, okay, you guys are
I'm sorry,
I skipped the line?
I think so. Umikdash Doche Yom Kippur Minala.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that's what it is.
Umikdash Doche Yom Kippur Minala. And how you know that the base of Mikdash is Doche Yom Kippur, which is the Shlomo story. So Gemara says, if it's because of it says Arbasa Yom, V'doma Yomim Haruyim. So maybe that's also 14 days doesn't mean 14 consecutive days. Right. Maybe they start on the 8th day of Tishrei, they start on the 7th day. Yeah. Right? So the Gemara says, well, you're right, but there's Gomer Yom Mehasam. So you got all these extra days. You have Shiva Yom, Arbasa Yom. So obviously it's Arbasa. So I have to say Arbasa. Why Yom? So Yom is the same way that Ashtei Yom and Shneimos Yom teaches me they're consecutive. So Arbasa Yom tells me that it's consecutive days without a break. That's the proof. Once again, it's not such a solid proof. That's how the Gemara learns it out. Now, the continuation of the Medrash, Yotza Baskal, the Amr Lahem, Kochem is the Mar Lachem Abba. So the voice came out and said, you got all Mabah. So the Gemara said, Minolan, the Achalahu. How did they really know that Kodesh Baruch Hu forgave them? Maybe you say, well, they heard the voice. Maybe they didn't really hear the voice. Okay? Or maybe the voice was heard in their heads and not really aloud. So the Gemara says there were other signs. The Tani Tachlifa. That Tachlifa learned, Bayom Hashmini Sholach Hasam Vaybaruchu et Melech V'yelech L'Oleim Samechem V'tu V'leiv. I should translate. The 8th day after everything is finished, the Shlomo sends the people. They blessed the king. They went to their tents. They were Smechem Tu V'leiv, good of heart. Al Kol HaTova Sh'Asa Hashem LeDavid Avdol Yisrael Amo. That they all the good that Kadosh Baruch Hu did for David and for the Jewish people. So all these blessings are interpreted here for very specific things. And when you see all the blessings that happen, if you accept this medrash, you realize that Kadosh Baruch Hu was happy with them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have blessed them in all these ways. What were the blessings? They came lo lam shamhalchu matzu nashem b'tahara. They came home and found that the women were not tamei. They had gone to the mikvah. Okay, and that's a celebration. Smechim shenagu shenena miziv hashchina. They were happy because they enjoyed the spirituality of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's Shechina's presence. V'tu v'leiv, and they were good heart. So this is something internal. Shekol echad v'echad nesabra ishta b'ben zachar. Okay, that when they came home and found that the women were tahar, that they impregnated them and they had boys. Okay, careful. Okay, al kol tova, that all the good. So here's where the bat kol came. Shiyotza bat kol v'yamra lehem. The bat kol came out at that point and said, Kulchem v'zuman l'chayim abba. They were all good olam abba, and the end of this is, let's say, and they were all for all the good that was given to David Avdo Yisrael Amo. So Beishlam Yisrael Amo. So we know what Yisrael Amo is. Why? The Achal Lahem Avon Yom Kippurim. The good for the Jewish people is they were forgiven for Yom Kippur. Allah David Avdo Maihi. What is the how do we know that the good that was given to David? So Gemara throws in one final medrash here that says when Shlomo wanted to open the Beis Hamikdash doors, the doors didn't open up. Okay, you've maybe heard the medrash.
No, I never heard that.
So with that, and they opened on account of David. How do you know? Amar Rav Yehuda, Maihi. Amar Rav Yehuda, Marav. B'shah shebikei Shlomo lachnis on the Mikdash. When Shlomo wanted to bring the Beis Aaron into the Beis Hamikdash, so Davku Sham Zeh, the gates stayed shut, the doors didn't open. He couldn't bring the Arona Bris in. Amar Shlomo Shlosh Esrim Varbo Renanos. He said 24 different words of praise which are found in that chapter in Malachim Aleph. And guess what? Lo Nena. The door stayed stuck shut and didn't open up. Pasach and the Ovnei said Shu Sham Rashechem. And still didn't open up. So Velo Nena. Kevin Shamar, when he said Hashem Elokim Al Tashe Pnei Mishichecha. Hashem Elokim, don't turn back the face of your anointed, referring to David. And the pasuk continues, Zichro lechaste David avdecha, remember the chesed of David your servant. What happened was miyad nena, the doors opened up, and everybody saw that on account of the chesed being done for David, the doors were able to get unstuck. He also saw nevchu pnei sonei David kishulek deira. At that point, all those who hated David, who said calumnies about David from the story about Sheva and all the other things, like shulek deira is the blackened part of the pot. The people who that they were so embarrassed they turned red. Everybody knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave David for the sin with Bathsheba. Okay, and so this is the end of this long measure. So therefore, you see, based upon this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave the Jewish people for eating on Yom Kippur. And forgave David for the sin with Bathsheba, and we learned this out from the Nesiim, and so forth and so forth and so on.